Good morning all. Back to our classes from Monday onwards. We were doing environment. We did till the 10% energy law. We said that energy in an ecosystem is always unidirectional. That is from sun to the top carnivore or the decomposers. It never goes back from the decomposers back to sun. Secondly, we said energy always decreases in every trophic level in a food chain. From sun to the green plant, it is 1% of energy that is used, and after that at every trophic level, the energy keeps on decreasing. Only 10% is used up and the rest 90% is given back to the environment. This is called as the 10% energy law. Depending on this, we say that food chains should not be very long, because longer the food chain, the amount of energy that is reached to the top carnivore becomes less. Thirdly, we also study that when we say that vegetarians get less amount of energy than non-vegetarian, it is a myth according to 10% energy law, because we come before the non-vegetarians in a food chain, so we get more energy than the non-vegetarian according to the 10% energy law. We also said many food chains operating simultaneously in an ecosystem is called as food web. Now we have to study about biological magnification. So let us understand what is biological magnification. 2-mark question every year in board is about what? Biological magnification. Okay. Now according to the revised syllabus of 10th standard, not the deleted one but the revised syllabus, the entire chapter of control and coordination is not there. So we will not do the chapter of control and coordination. After this, after I finish biology, I will start with metals and non-metals along with electricity, because electricity is quite a big chapter and we need to really do it slow. So we will do it in our own pace and we will start after this. I think today I am planning to finish environment. After this, we will try to start with metals and non-metals, which is your third chapter. Half of that chapter has been deleted. So I will tell you from where to where it is and I'll send you the notes accordingly. Okay? Only environment was not into PDF form. I was slightly held up. For people who couldn't open, I will send you in that PDF form after some time. Just give me some more time. Okay? So now talking about biological magnification, let us understand once again. I will write a food chain. Let us say I have green plant. Green plant is eaten up by goat. Goat is eaten up by, let us say, whom should we eat? Goat is eaten up by man. Let us make something like this. Okay. Now, what I am trying to tell you is, in a food chain, let us suppose some harmful chemical enter the food chain here. That means these green plants are grown in a soil which has DDT content in it, or it has a pesticide content in it. So what happens is, this green plant, as they grow there, they have a lot of content of pesticide in it. They are growing in the same water also. But when these green plants are eaten up by goat, goat drinks the same water, goat stays in the same water, and goat in addition eats that what? Green plant. So the concentration of these harmful chemicals in the goat is more than that of the green plant, because the goat is drinking water directly, so the pesticide is entering. Also it is eating every day what? The green plant, which has got what content? Pesticide content. Now let us talk about the man in the food chain. The man stays very close by to that area. The man uses the entire water, uses the same water for all its activity, taking bath, brushing his teeth, drinking water. So as a result of it, the pesticide content is already there in man. Then he eats goat. Then he also eats these green plants also directly. Some amount of poor green plants we can eat directly. So the concentration of the harmful chemical or pesticide is always maximum in the tertiary consumer or in the top top carnivore. This is called as biological magnification. So what is biological magnification? The accumulation of harmful chemicals. The accumulation of harmful chemicals at each trophic level increases, and this process can be seen maximum in the top carnivore or in a tertiary consumer, and this process is called as what? Biological magnification. Let us read through it. Another interesting aspect of food chain is how unknowingly some harmful chemicals enter our body through the food chain. This is what I explained. Let us suppose some DDT, some pesticide, some sewage waste, some detergent, some soap part which is not good for plants enters the food chain. You have read in class 9th how water gets polluted. One of the reasons is the use of several pesticides and other chemicals to protect our crop from diseases and pests. These chemicals are either washed down into the soil or into the water bodies. From the soil, they are absorbed by plants along with water and minerals. And from the water bodies, these are taken up by aquatic plants and animals. This is one of the ways in which they enter the food chain. As these chemicals are not degraded, they get accumulated progressively at each trophic level. As human beings occupy the top level in any food chain, the maximum concentration of these chemicals get accumulated in our body. And this phenomena is known as what? Biological magnification. Please write. Define biological magnification. This is the reason why our food grains such as wheat and rice, vegetable and fruit, even meat containing varying amount of pesticide residue. They cannot always be removed by washing or other means. So please write, define biological magnification and underline harmful chemicals as they are not degraded. As these chemicals, harmful chemicals as they are not degraded get accumulated progressively at each trophic level. As human beings occupy the top level in any food chain, the maximum concentration of these chemicals get accumulated in our bodies. This phenomena is known as what? Biological magnification. Clear? This is the reason why our food grains such as wheat, rice, vegetable, fruit, even meat containing varying amount of pesticide. They cannot always be removed by washing or other means. So from this part you should know what a biodegradable waste, non-biodegradable waste. What is a food chain? The sequential arrangement of organisms depending on each other for food is called as food chain. What are the characteristics of food chain? The number of producers is always more. Then the consumer, which is the primary consumer, secondary consumer and the tertiary consumer. It always follows the number of pyramid. That is, base has more, so producers are more. Then slowly and slowly their number decreases and the top carnivore is very less when compared to the producer. And that is how there is a balance kept in the ecosystem. The ecosystem basically has two components, biotic component and abiotic component. Abiotic component includes soil, temperature, rainfall, wind, etc. Whereas biotic component includes producers, consumers and decomposers, significance of decomposers, and then in consumers you have herbivore, carnivore, omnivore and parasites. Okay. After that we studied how does the energy flow in a food chain. This is very, very important, which is called as the 10% energy law. And also you should know that the energy flow in an ecosystem is always unidirectional. We should also know what is biomagnification. That is the accumulation of harmful chemicals progressively at each trophic level, with human beings having the maximum concentration of these harmful chemicals are called as what, or is called as biological magnification. This is why anything what we eat has some amount of pesticide residue which cannot get washed away. Clear? Now let us read activity 15.5. Newspaper reports about pesticide level. Same thing. Newspaper reports about pesticide levels in ready-made food items are often seen these days, and some states have banned these products. Debates in group the need for such ban. It should be banned because it is harmful. What do you think would be the source of pesticide in these food items? Probably the water in which they grow or the soil in which they grow is polluted. Could pesticide get into our body from this source through other food products too? Yes. Discuss what methods could be applied to reduce our intake of pesticide. We should switch on to what farming? Organic farming, where we use biodegradable pesticides such as neem oil and others. We should reduce the use of fertilizers, and we should also try to use what varieties? The indigenous varieties of crops, not the high yielding varieties of crops. Okay. What are trophic levels? Every step or every stage in a food chain is called as a trophic level. Give an example of a food chain and state different trophic levels in it. This is producers, this is consumers, and this is primary consumer, this is what? Secondary consumer. What is the role of decomposers in ecosystem? I think I have made you underline. Decomposers are small microorganisms. These decomposers help to convert the complex food substances or the complex material of what we are made of into simpler substances so that it can be recycled. If there are no decomposers, earth would become a garbage bin as no material would be recycled. How do our activities affect the environment? See, lot of questions come from this part of the syllabus. You have to write all the things which you don't do, such as how do you save energy? I will switch off the light after I leave the room. I will switch off the fan. Which you don't do, write all those things. Okay, then you will always get marks. If you say I will keep the light open, let everybody pay, that is wrong. So please, I will use cycle, but you all use two-wheelers, I know. I will walk and go. I will use public transport. So you know all these things. So in environment, there are sometimes questions which they will ask. What practices you can do to reduce the waste or reduce the carbon footprint? What will you use? You will use a public transport. You will pool your vehicle. You will not go by individual vehicle. You will try to use what? Again, electrical vehicles. Or you will not burn waste. You will segregate waste. You will always carry a cloth bag whenever you go. So all these things what you are supposed to do but you don't do, please write. Okay. How do our activities affect the environment? We are an integral part of the environment. Changes in the environment affect us and our activities change the environment around us. We have already seen in class 9 how our activities pollute the environment. In this chapter, we shall be looking at two of the environmental problems, which is depletion of ozone layer and waste disposal. Now, waste disposal is a major problem now. Ozone layer, when I was in class 12th and class 11th, which is quite a long time, there was a major problem with ozone depletion and there were extreme cases of skin cancer and skin rashes and lot of skin issues with the ozone entering into the atmosphere. But unfortunately, your syllabus has not changed for a great time. Now the ozone layer problem is not that great because all the developed countries of the nation have got together and have reduced the ozone depleting chemicals from their industries or from their surroundings. As a result of it, the ozone layer is slowly patching up and it is not a big hole as it was. Waste definitely is a big problem. You know, when you enter a metropolitan city or A-level cities, you will find a lot of garbage being dumped. When you go from Mysore to Bangalore near Kengeri, you see the entire sewage of Bangalore floating and flowing and frothing. You see to the other side when you move towards Tumkur and all, you will see heaps and heaps of garbage being dumped outside Bangalore. So there is a big problem because we do not know how to recycle our waste. We do not know how to segregate our waste. We do not know how to convert waste into a black manure or a black gold, which is called as manure. If every person tries to manage his own waste, burden on the municipal communities or the municipal corporation becomes lesser. But we all tend to just keep our houses clean and throw away our waste. Actually, all of us can generate fertilizers, or rather I should say biological fertilizer, which is called manure. We can also have a small biogas unit, 2 or 3 families together and use. But that kind of culture is still to come in India. It is mainly done in all these apartments and all, where they try to make manure from the waste that has been generated. So let us talk about first ozone layer and how it is getting depleted. So when you talk about ozone layer, ozone is a triatomic gas. Okay, so we will first talk about ozone. Ozone is what? It is a triatomic gas. It is an isotope of oxygen. So what is ozone? Ozone generally you write it as what? O3. It is a triatomic gas. How is ozone formed? So what happens is, in the higher layers of the atmosphere, oxygen in presence of high temperatures gets converted into O and O. It gets converted into atomic oxygen, and this atomic oxygen further combines with O to form what? O3. This ozone gas or the ozone layer helps us to protect us from the harmful ultraviolet rays of the sun and does not allow the ultraviolet sun to reach us. So now, because it has been depleted, all the ultraviolet or much of the ultraviolet rays used to reach the earth, and as a result of it we had lot of skin ailments. Okay, so let us read through it. Ozone is a molecule formed by 3 atoms of oxygen. So I said it is a triatomic gas. While oxygen, which we normally refer to, while O2, which we normally refer to as oxygen, is essential for all aerobic forms of life, ozone is a deadly poison. At higher levels of the atmosphere, ozone performs an essential function. It shields the surface of the earth from the UV radiation from the sun. This radiation is highly damaging to the organism. It is supposed to cause what? Skin cancer in human beings. So, please write what is ozone and what are the functions of ozone. What is ozone and what are the functions of ozone? So what is ozone? Ozone is basically a triatomic gas. It is a deadly poison. At the higher layers, it is essential for what? Protecting the earth from the harmful ultraviolet radiations of the sun, which is supposed to cause what? Skin cancer. Right? For the next paragraph, how is ozone formed? How is ozone formed? Okay, so ozone at higher levels of the atmosphere is a product of the UV radiation acting on oxygen molecule. The higher energy radiation, so see here, in the presence of UV radiations, oxygen breaks into O and O. This oxygen combines with O to form what? O3. The higher energy UV radiations split apart some molecular oxygen into free oxygen atoms. These atoms then combine with molecular oxygen to form ozone. So, explain the formation of ozone. Very, very important with the equation. 2 marks question in bold. So, O2 in presence of UV radiation gets broken down into O and O. This O2 plus O will give you what? O3. O3 is a deadly poison. It is basically used to shield the earth from the harmful ultraviolet radiations of the sun. These harmful ultraviolet radiations of the sun, if there is no ozone, will cause what? Skin cancer. The amount of ozone in the atmosphere began to drop sharply in the 1980s. This decrease has been linked to the synthetic chemical chlorofluorocarbon, which are used as refrigerants and in fire extinguisher. Please write, name a chemical responsible for ozone depletion. Name a chemical responsible for ozone depletion. The chemical which is responsible for ozone depletion is chlorofluorocarbon. Where it is used? It is used as a refrigerant and a fire extinguisher. Please write after that, expand UNEP. Expand UNEP. What is UNEP? United Nations Environment Program. What is it? In 1987, the United Nations Environment Program succeeded in forging an agreement to freeze CFC production at 1986 level. Andre, we should use all refrigerants and fire extinguishers and all other aerosols and other places. We should reduce the use of what? CFC. So we should not produce CFC and we should bring down the production of CFC to what level? 1986 levels. So as a result of it, you will find that the ozone layer is slowly healing and it is patching up. So what did we study about ozone layer? Ozone is a triatomic gas, O3. It is a deadly poison. In the higher layers of the earth or in the higher layers of the atmosphere, it is generally used to protect the earth from the harmful ultraviolet radiations of the sun. If there was no ozone layer, the ultraviolet radiation would have reached the earth and then we would have had a lot of issues of skin cancer. Okay, coming back, how is ozone formed? Ozone in the ultraviolet radiation or oxygen in the ultraviolet radiations in the area of ultraviolet radiation breaks down into O and O, which is called as atomic oxygen. This oxygen reacts with the atomic oxygen to form what? Ozone. It is very essential to freeze the ozone production, to freeze the CFC production, because CFC is the only chemical which is produced basically as refrigerant and in fire extinguisher, which is responsible to deplete the ozone layer. So it is very essential to freeze the CFC production to 1986 level, which is done by what? UNEP, United Nations Environment Program. Correct? Everything about ozone layer. Now, find out from the library, internet and newspaper reports which chemicals are responsible for the depletion of ozone layer. Find out if the regulations put in place to control the emission of these chemicals have succeeded in reducing the damage to the ozone layer. Yes. Has the size of the ozone layer changed in recent years? Yes, it has changed. It has become smaller and smaller. Now, managing the garbage we produce. I have always told you I am again in managing and segregating our garbage, and in a community we start collecting the waste garbage and the dry garbage separately. Dry garbage or your dry waste should be burnt in an incinerator, which is a long chimney kind of thing which releases harmful gases at a higher layer of the atmosphere, and the wet, all the wet garbage or the wet waste should be cut into small pieces and then be converted into manure in either pits. Dig the pits and dump it for about 30 to 35 days, add some microorganisms to it which will convert them into manure, and that manure can be used in your garden or in the apartment gardens where you live. So the first step in managing our garbage is we should always segregate the garbage. We should segregate it into dry waste and wet waste. Okay. Visit any town or city, we are sure to find heaps of garbage all over the place. Visit any place of tourist interest and we are sure to find the place littered with empty food wrappers. Go to our vegetable market. You will know how beautiful it is and how it stinks. In the earlier classes, we have talked about the problem of dealing with the garbage that we generate. Let us now look at the problem a bit more deeply. Find out what happens in the waste generated at home. Is there a system in place to collect this waste? Yes, no? Some waste uncle wala comes, no? That dustbin uncle comes and picks up all the dustbin. He tells you to segregate your garbage and put it into 2 different bags. Find out how the local body, panchayat, municipal corporation, resident welfare association deals with the waste. Are there mechanisms in place to treat the biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste separately? Calculate how much waste is generated at home in a day. How much of this is biodegradable? Calculate how much waste is generated in the classroom in a day. How much of this waste is biodegradable? Most of the waste, even in the house, even in the class, is what? Biodegradable if treated properly. Find out how the sewage in your locality is treated. Are there mechanisms in place to ensure that local water bodies are not polluted by untreated sewage? Find out how the local industry in your locality treat their waste. Are there mechanisms in place to ensure that the soil and water are not polluted by this waste? Ali Barcode steps. Steps to manage the garbage we produce. First point, segregate our garbage into dry waste and wet waste. Segregate the garbage into biodegradable waste and non-biodegradable waste. First point, please write, segregate our garbage into biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste. Done? Write second point, biodegradable waste should be dumped or should be put in pits dug in the ground and should be converted to manure. Non-biodegradable waste, third point, non-biodegradable waste should be burned in an incinerator. What is an incinerator? Incinerator basically is a long chimney which leaves all the harmful gases which is generated by the burning of non-biodegradable waste into the upper layers of the atmosphere so that it escapes out without causing greenhouse effect. Clear? So this is how we need to segregate our garbage. Improvement in our lifestyle have resulted in greater amount of waste material generation. Yes or no? Anything and everything which comes from Amazon creates a lot of garbage. There is a package, then there is one bubble wrap, there is another kind of plastic material that all comes. Earlier, you know, when we were all small and whenever we used to get our monthly saman, there were dabbas which was taken and the shopkeeper used to weigh it and put it in our dabbas, and there was no requirement of packaging and getting lot of plastic and things at home. Or what was used? Paper was used to wrap and then send it. Now when you go to Loyal World and you come and cut all the packages home, you know how much of plastic material which you generate. Even if you go for general shopping, something or the other what you buy will have some amount of plastic in it. So you are supposed to reduce the use of plastic and all the non-biodegradable material. Changes in attitude also have a role to play, with more and more things we use becoming disposable. Changes in packaging have resulted in much of our waste becoming non-biodegradable. What do you think will be the impact of these in our environment? What will happen? Our environment will completely get spoiled. Now this is all about disposable cups in trains. See, all of us know we have all travelled by trains, whether it may be an AC chair car or an AC two-tire or in general second class or sleeper class. Okay, all of us have this very fancy way of eating food. If you're traveling overseas, if you're traveling from one state to the other overnight in a train, let us suppose I always stayed in Delhi. So when I always used to travel from Delhi to Bangalore, it used to be great fun because it used to be an overnight journey, and although my mother would pack khana for all of us, we still would love to eat something what used to come in the train. And when something comes in a train, whether it may be a soup or a tea or coffee, it all used to, initially when we were small, used to come in glass cups. Okay, but as time changed, plastic cups took over all the glass cups. And every time when the train would reach from one station to the other, or the train would stand in one particular station and all of us would have eaten, what we would do, we would throw those containers either in the dustbin or in the train from where it goes down. And after the train moves, you could see heaps of plastic cups scattered everywhere. Even the pantry car would serve khana in one tray with lot of plastic spoon, plastic cups, giving you curd, giving you saru, anna, everything. So when Lalu Prasad Yadav, who is now in jail because of order scam and all such thing, he became the railway minister. He tried to revive this industry or tried to revive this problem of plastic. And he said, in North India, I don't know, if you have ever traveled to Mathura or if you have ever traveled to Agra, if you go early morning, you will find everybody drinking tea in earthen cups. These cups are called as kulhad. You sometimes get curd in that cup. I don't know if you get in Mysore, but generally you get rasgulla also in earthen pots. You get curd in earthen pots. So in North India still you have this habit of drinking tea in those kulhad. So he said that, anyhow all our potters were out of job and nobody were interested in buying that pottery. So he said that it will help all the potter family, and so he said that I will replace the entire plastic cups with what cups? Earthen cups. These earthen cups are called as kulhad, and after it you can just dump it and then they will collect all the kulhad and again make it into soil and again use it. Okay. It was started with few of the trains such as Rajdhani Express and Shatabdi Express and all. But later it was found that when you have to make kulhad, you require the very fine layer of soil, which is the top fertile soil. So if you have to make so many kulhads for so much of population with so many trains, then it was found that we will lose out very high amount of the top fertile layer of soil. And hence that concept was removed and we still use what cups? Paper cups. Plastic cups are not there, but paper cups are there. And if he gives you soup or tea and you say, no, I'll drink after 5 minutes, and you lift it up, this would have gone. And all the tea or soup will fall on your dress. So be sure to take 2 or 3 paper cups and drink it. So this is all about disposable cups in trains. If you ask your parents, they will probably remember a time when tea in trains was served in plastic glasses which had to be returned to the vendor. The introduction of disposable cup was hailed as a step forward for reasons of hygiene. No one at that time perhaps thought that the impact caused by disposal of millions of these cups on a daily basis. Sometimes back, kulhad, that is disposable cups made of clay, were suggested as an alternative. But a little thought showed that making these kulhads on a large scale would result in the loss of the fertile top soil. Now disposable paper cups are being used. What do you think are the advantages of disposable paper cups over plastic cups? Disposable paper cups are biodegradable, whereas plastic cups are non-biodegradable. Please write there a question. Why are kulhads not used as disposable cups in train? Not used as disposable cups in train, and with what are they replaced? And with what are they replaced? They are replaced with what? Paper cups. As paper cups are what? Biodegradable. Search the internet or library to find out what hazardous material have to be dealt while disposing electronic items. How would these materials affect the environment? Electronic materials generally tend to stay back in the environment for long duration of time. I think if you study Star of Mysore or read Star of Mysore or Mysore Mitra and all, I think Wednesdays is the day where electronic garbage is collected from house to house. How would these materials, find out how plastics are recycled? Does the recycling have any impact on the environment? What is ozone and how does it affect any ecosystem? I have already taught this. How can you help in reducing the problem of waste disposal that I told you? Segregate them into dry and wet waste. Give any two methods I have told. Now this is what is your, this ends your environment. Something else is there? No. Let us go through the question answers. Which one of the following groups contain only biodegradable atom? I think the first one. No. Cake, wood and grass. D. 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 Which of the following constitute a food chain? Grass, goat and human. B. Which of the following are environmental friendly practices? Carrying cloth bag? Yes. Switching off unnecessary light? Yes. Walking to school? Yes. All the above. Okay. From 4th to 9th, I will put the answers in the group. Kindly check it. Okay. Thank you. So this finishes our environment.